few. We'll also have more from the president, his latest rally tonight in Pensacola, Florida. But first, my open. Now, I don't care if you like him or you don't like him. You don't have a choice. On Tuesday, the issue is simply, do you care about what's getting done or some left-wing wackadoo's subjective view about the way it's getting done? The left prefers style over substance. They prefer interpretation over facts, the subjective versus the objective truth and reality. Why? Because they hate him. That we're even having this conversation is ridiculous. The only thing that matters are results. You can certainly have a conversation about how he says things. Okay, I'll give you that. But what makes you right? You're so blinded by hateful vitriol and disappointed by your 2016 loss that you can't see straight. Instead, let's take a moment and look at the facts. It's simply insane. Every metric is up. The economy is through the roof, just like he said it would be. The longest positive growth streak on record. Unemployment at 3.7%, the lowest in almost half a century. GDP as high as 4.2, the strongest consumer confidence in decades. Are you even listening? What this means is if you want to get a job, you can get one. If you're African American, you've never had a better chance to work than now. If you're Hispanic, you've never had a better chance of getting a job. If you're Asian American, it's never been better. If you're a woman, you have a better chance of getting a job than in the last 50 years. If you're a youth, a better chance than in the last 50 years. If you care about a better life so you can pay the rent, pay the mortgage, educate your kids, and maybe even take a vacation, then this is the America you want to live in. Do you really want to go back to the days of Obama and the demon rats where manufacturing jobs were, quote, a thing of the past? There are now more than 446,000 new manufacturing jobs. That's what I said, more than 446,000. Almost 500,000 new manufacturing jobs, 100,000 of them supporting the production and transport of oil and natural gas, construction, transportation, healthcare, manufacturing, all major gains. Wages for American workers are going up. If you work at Walmart or Amazon, they're actually raising your pay. Why? Because they know you have other opportunities to get a job in the Trump economy. If you're a veteran, you've already gotten a raise, just like he said he would. Do you remember when 22 veterans a day were committing suicide, couldn't even get a doctor's appointment? The Democrats may believe they knew nothing about it. Obama said he read it in the newspaper, while rewarding VA hospital staff who threw away requests for appointments. Now veterans have access to private sector health care options, and they don't have to rely on the VA. The man's promise keeping is relentless. He promised us jobs, and he gave them to us. He promised he'd move the embassy to Jerusalem, and he did. He promised he'd break the Iran deal, and he did. He promised he'd get rid of ISIS, and he did. He promised he'd rebuild the military, and he did, to the tune of $700 billion. Everything is better. But you don't like his style. You don't like him. You're concerned about the rhetoric and who we are. Well, if you don't care about results and things getting better and things getting done, but instead the way you see it getting done, then by all means, vote for a Democrat. I thought that liberals were live and let live. Why do you care about how he chooses to lead? Why are you so focused on your hatred of Donald Trump? Why do you dismiss his results? Obama, like Hillary, missing the spotlight, comes out again.
Suddenly, Republicans are saying they're going to protect your pre-existing conditions when they've literally been doing the opposite. That's some kind of gall. That's some kind of chutzpah. Let's call it what it is. It's a lie. They're lying to you.
It's a lie. They're lying to you. You're the one who promised that we could keep our health care and our doctor when you knew it was a lie at the time. Instead, while Republicans run on their record, Democrats promise to impeach him, to keep investigating Justice Kavanaugh, when there is actually a criminal referral to the Justice Department against the woman who said that Kavanaugh and his friend raped her several times. Yet these phonies promise to upend the Constitution, the presumption of innocence, keep the borders open, try to control our speech, control what we say, how we should say it. And of course, they will continue with that good old Russia collusion delusion. And they call us fearmongers.
Wants to destroy what you stand for.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
Please don't just come here today and then go home. Go to the Hill today. Get up and please get up in the face of some Congress people.
But Michelle says that, when they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick them.
In terms of the bonus that corporate America received versus the crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on is so pathetic.
This executive order was mean-spirited and un-American.
Actually, if you looked at the outrage of Congresspeople, it looks like we have more to fear than they do. Facts don't lie. They cannot be influenced. All these cities, Atlanta, Chicago, Baltimore, New Orleans, Philadelphia, all with high crime rates, failing schools, and poverty, all have one thing in common: Democrats in charge. The last Republican in charge in any of these cities was between 70 and 150 years ago. Now that unemployment of African Americans is the lowest in history, think again. What do you have to lose? Folks, we're not paying attention to any of the left's noise, just like we didn't in 2016. So, are you ready to challenge history, where every party in power for virtually the last century suffers at the polls? Are you ready to challenge history like you did in 2016, when they told you just as well not go out and vote because the Queen, the one they tried to drag across the presidential finish line, was going to win? If you like more money in your paycheck, if you like being able to find a job, if you like the direction this country is on, put the pedal to the metal and get you and everyone you know out to vote. Vote for the America that is great again. And that's my open. If you love my opening statements, you're going to love my new book, New York Times #1 bestseller, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals: The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. And joining me now with reaction to my opening statement and so much more, Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway. Good evening, Kellyanne. Thanks for being with us tonight.
That was a barn burner stem winder, Jeanine, and you are absolutely right on so many levels. Look, a lot of the analysis from them sounds like it did in 2016. They're still running content-free campaigns. That's their business. But I'm going to focus on a tale of two different views on what's gone low. When you talk about what's gone low with the Democrats, it's uncivil, uncouth, uncharitable many times. When you talk about what's gone low under President Donald Trump, it's called the unemployment rate. We lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs under President Obama's administration, the previous 8 years, we've gained over 400,000 manufacturing jobs. I want you to think about that for a moment, because everybody pretends that the economy is just a bunch of numbers. It doesn't have impact. Chuck Schumer said it doesn't matter to the average American. It doesn't give them any more dollars. This has been a boon to the job creators, the job seekers, and the job holders. If you have a job, you actually have job mobility now. Yeah. Beyond job security, you can move around to another job. You can look for better benefits, something closer to home. The deregulation, what he's doing at the border, what he's doing with our military, our veterans, that's why what I termed in 2016 the, quote, undercover hidden Trump voter to international ridicule, and of course it was true. Yep. They're going to be out there on Tuesday, I'll tell you why. They're so tired of arguing with people in their circle of life about their support for Republican policies and for President Trump's agenda that they don't talk about it anymore. The big mouths are all out there. There's not a single hidden vote anywhere for the Democrats. Not a single hidden vote anywhere for the Democrats. Yep. I'm telling you, look at the line in Bozeman, Montana today just to see the president. The media will say, but will they vote? No, they stood in line for 3 hours, but they're not going to go and vote. Of course they're going to vote. But Kellyanne, the thing that amazes me is that Barack Obama is now out mocking the president and, saying, look, the economy's so good. I think we have sound on it. Let's take a listen to it.
I do have to make this point because right now Republicans are all, look, the economy's so good. Where do you think that started? When did that start?
So, Kellyanne, I ask you, he's coming out now saying that he's responsible for all this these jobs. What do you say to that?
Well, people don't believe that, and there's been polling that's been done to prove that. It also just seems like a very odd and somewhat pathetic argument from a former president who is on tape also saying that 2% or less in growth in GDP is the, quote, new normal. Right. Well, under President Trump, it's been over 4% for several quarters. And then he also said, well, what's Donald Trump going to do? Wave a magic wand and create new jobs? No, it's called deregulating and undoing the Obama regulations. That's what aggravates him so far. Bit by bit, President Trump is undoing the Obama legacy, not because we sit around talking about Barack Obama. I hardly ever hear his name said in this White House. It's because those were wrong policies that was taking us towards a socialist, pro-government America. This president has said to industries that were flat on their backs, manufacturing, construction, mining, I'm here for you. We're going to open up those factories. We're going to bring those jobs back. We're going to renegotiate trade policies, deregulate, and cut your taxes. All of that is why we have an economic boom. It didn't start under President Obama, and if it had, a single Democrat would have voted for President Trump's tax cuts. Barack Obama is the only Democrat I know who thinks the Trump economy is doing well, because he wants to take credit for it. So people know what they feel. They know what they see in their paychecks. Yeah. They know what they see in their savings accounts. People know that they're doing better. They're more peaceful and prosperous. And Jeanine, I don't sit around the Beltway in the bubble or up and down the East Coast or on the West Coast. I go out and I travel and I talk to people, and not curated Republican audiences. People come up to me from all over the country. Some aren't so nice. I pray for them. They've been working on miserable for 4 decades. But most people will come up to me and say, I didn't even vote for President Trump, or I don't much like this or that. Tell him thank you. Tell him thank you for keeping promises, for turning Washington upside down. He delivered.
Thank you.
And those results, that progress, that delivery, that matters most on Tuesday.
I think we're going to see an interesting Tuesday. Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
We're not even talking about losing in the Senate. Think about that. That's historic.
Right.
Thank you.
Dan Bongino and Chris Hahn still on deck ready for one final debate before America votes. You don't want to miss it. But next, President Trump's daughter-in-law and Trump 2020 senior advisor Laura Trump joins me live to make her closing argument for the president's agenda before Tuesday's crucial election. My live interview with Laura Trump is a moment away. Stay with us.
Very important election.
Breaking tonight, President Trump making the case for his agenda at a rally in Pensacola, Florida, just 3 days before the crucial midterm elections. My next guest has traveled the country campaigning for these midterm elections. Trump 2020 senior advisor, daughter-in-law to the president, Laura Trump, joins me now. Good evening, Laura.
Hi, Jeanine. Great to be with you.
All right. You are a strong female Trump family surrogate, just back, as I understand it, from Nevada, Georgia, West Virginia in the run-up to the Tuesday midterms. You were also on the road in 2016, and I was able to see you on part of that journey. Compare 2016 to the 2018 midterms. Is it different? Is it similar?
You know what? It's very similar. I think, honestly, Jeanine, one of the only differences I'm seeing is that the president's name is not directly on the ballot. But people, I think, understand that it is equally as important, if you voted for him in 2016, to get out and vote in the midterms for Republicans. I'm telling you, the turnout everywhere, the enthusiasm, and by the way, Jeanine, the enthusiasm among women, and this is something that the Democrats always tout, that they have the women's vote. Women, after they saw what happened to Brett Kavanaugh, are ready to vote for Republicans. I feel really good about things going into Tuesday. The enthusiasm is there. Everybody has to get out and vote. They got to take their friends, their family, everybody out on Tuesday and vote for Republicans.
Well,
for the Democrats.
What's interesting about this, Laura, is for the first time in history, an ex-president, Barack Obama, to be specific, is coming out and doing something, that hasn't been done. He's out campaigning virtually against the Republicans and the president, calling them liars and talking about the numbers and health care. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, they must be pretty scared on the Democrat side if they're pulling out the big guns and they have Barack Obama out campaigning for the Democrats. I think they're very scared because this is a president who is delivering results for the people. As it relates to health care, the president has said 1 million times that the Republicans are the ones that want to give you a good health care plan. Excuse me, Obama gave everybody probably the most horrible health care plan in the history of the country with Obamacare. People's lives were essentially destroyed by it in many cases, having to work 2 and 3 jobs just to pay their premiums.
Right. And
so we finally have a president who understands and he wants to help people. I think it's very telling, by the way, that Barack Obama is out there on the campaign trail.
Interesting. And while you were speaking, Laura, we put up a tweet from the president saying that he was going to totally protect Republicans and he were going to totally protect health insurance as it relates to pre-existing illnesses. But, I think that the Democrats are also saying that women are better off under Democratic leadership. And I'm going to ask you to listen to sound by Oprah Winfrey, who is out now in Georgia on Thursday. Take a listen to this.
I'm here today because of the men and because of the women who were lynched, who were humiliated, who were discriminated against, who were suppressed, who were repressed and oppressed, and I refuse to let their sacrifices be in vain.
Okay, so as it relates to women, as Oprah comes out and campaigns for women and, says because they've been oppressed, they got to, in that case, vote for the female Democrat candidate for governor. What say you?
Well, Oprah's great. I loved her show. But I think women are incredibly smart. And women like results, Jeanine. Guess who is delivering results for women in this country? President Donald Trump. How about the fact that women's unemployment is at a 65-year low right now under this president? That this president wants to make sure that their families have a great country in the future. That is what women care about. We are so much safer as a country under this president. And you know what? They might not tell their friends. They might not talk about it a lot. But I think when women are by themselves in a voting booth on Tuesday, they're going to vote for Republicans because they understand Republicans are going to continue the great trend we've seen under President Donald Trump.
Laura Trump, thank you so much for sharing your Saturday night with us.
Thanks, Jeanine.
All right. So what's really at stake when you go to the polls? Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens from Turning Point USA are here together to lay it out. And next, Dan Bongino and Chris Hahn get their final say before America votes. It's a panel battle you can't miss. Who's going to win?
From America's News Headquarters, I'm Ebony K. Williams. The largest migrant caravan headed for the U.S. is criticizing Mexican officials. They say Mexico is directing the group northward through the Gulf Coast state of Veracruz. The migrants are calling that, quote, the route of death. There are about 4,000 people in this convoy of migrants. Hundreds of Pakistanis rallied in Karachi Saturday. They were protesting a decision by the Supreme Court to acquit a Christian woman of blasphemy charges. They want that decision overturned. Asia Bibi was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death in 2010 for insulting the Prophet Muhammad. And she's barred from leaving the country while the Supreme Court conducts a final review of its decision. I'm Ebony K. Williams. Now, back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
Just over 48 to 72 hours before the midterms, and a lot for my panel to battle about tonight. Let's get right to it. NRA TV host Dan Bongino, former senior aide to Chuck Schumer, radio show host Chris Hahn. All right, guys, the president is talking about the caravan and the fact that he is determined to protect this nation and allow people who are legal immigrants to immigrate. But right now, the southern border looks like there is a surge coming across, and they were violent from the Guatemala to the Mexico border, knocking down the walls and the fences. And now the immigrants are suing our government, saying they have a constitutional right to be here. Chris Hahn, tell me why they do.
You know, we're going to spend $200 million of the people's money for a campaign stunt.
Don't start down that road. Chris, answer the question. Do they have a constitutional right to be here?
I don't contest her, because that's what this is all about,
all right,
sending troops to our border.
Nobody cares about that. Dan Bongino, what do you say? Do they have a constitutional right to be here?
I can't believe Chris just said that on a national cable news program. Did he really just suggest that he's unsure if they have a constitutional right to be here? Judge, do you understand? This is the modern liberal. You ask them a basic, simple question that, seriously, my daughter in first grade can answer for you. I'm not even kidding. Do foreign nationals have a constitutional right at any point to enter the United States when they choose and how they choose it? And he's unsure the answer? Folks, listen, the election day is coming up. Wait a minute, Chris, I didn't interrupt you, buddy. I did not interrupt you. Chris, good. There you go. There's your answer. But, folks, I want you to understand election day is coming up, and Chris's answer is epidemic of a bunch of people on the left who are completely feel the same way, that you could just waltz in whenever you feel like it.
Okay, so now, Chris, what the president is doing is he's enforcing our laws, and he's saying to those coming from Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, unlike President Obama, who basically invited them all in, he's saying, you can't come here. You don't have more rights than anyone else from any other part of the world. What makes you think that you have more rights and you can just invade or come in as a group? And there are thousands, tributaries. California, Arizona, Texas. I don't think it's funny if you live in New York and you suffer from some of the gang members who have killed Americans, then it's not so funny. Why can't we screen them, Chris?
Well, look, I want to screen them. They're coming to seek asylum. But here's how you know this is fake. The president will go visit the troops at the border, unlike the troops we have in Afghanistan, which he has never had the courage to go visit. So this is something that we know is not real. This is not an invasion. This happens all the time. It's ginned up to get the base motivated. And by the way, it might be working politically. The president may be an evil genius, but it is a little bit genius to get his base worked up this way.
I don't think he's evil. What do you say, Dan?
Yeah, Chris, listen, man, that's just gross. I mean, what's going on with you lately? You're like losing your mind. Why would you suggest the President of the United States, whatever personal gripes you have with him, again, now people can see this, Chris. This isn't like, we're not on like a private internet chat room here. People can see you say, this is dumb stuff. Why would you suggest the President of the United States doesn't like the troops? Listen, let me just tell you something right now. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'll tell you anyway. I've still got friends in the Secret Service who, unlike you, actually know the President.
Like every other
Chris,
president.
Listen, you're not going to talk over me. You may do that with other people. Not me. I don't play that game, okay? Listen, I have people, I know friends who actually work with this president. They don't share classified info with me at all, but they have told me multiple times how much he adores, not likes, but adores our cops, our firemen, and our military. So you saying that like it's some political stunt and he doesn't have the guts to visit that shit, you should really just retract that and save face now. You humiliated yourself.
Last word, Chris.
I'll say this, Dan. When the president goes to visit them in Afghanistan, I will retract it. But right now, he still hasn't gone.
It's just a dumb thing to say,
so that's where we are. The president visiting Afghanistan. I don't know if the American people are concerned about that before Tuesday. Dan Bongino, Chris Hahn, thanks. And by the way, I'll buy you both dinner if you show up and sit here next to me for your next debate. Anyway.
All right, cool.
Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk are on deck, but Republican Congressman Darrell Issa is next. What should we be worried about if the Democrats take the House? Find out in a moment. And the two people vying to get that seat are a Democrat, Mike Levin, and a Republican, Diane Harkey. What I found so interesting in this is that among those who've already voted in that district, this guy, Levin, seems to be up 80% among those who believe that health care is the most significant issue in the race. So my question to you is, did I miss something on health care? Why are we all of a sudden talking about health care? It's like the Democrats' biggest talking point. We got rid of the individual mandate over the last 2 years. What happened?
It is interesting that we actually have driven down the cost of health care under Obamacare during the last couple of years by getting rid of some unnecessary regulations. And yet the voters are, in some cases, being driven to be concerned again. That scare tactic on health care. In the case of Mike Levin, to be honest, he has $8 or $9 million pummeling, just absolutely distorting Diane Harkey's record. Well, Diane Harkey, quite frankly, is being outspent about 7 or 8 to 1. So it's not a fair match. It is one of those challenges where her race wasn't funded, and so he's got kind of
by the Republican Party?
Not a penny.
So, but you had that seat for so many years. I mean, somebody has to think that, unless something significant changed, that a Republican can win that district, although you're pretty special, I assume.
I'm not that special. The reality is that seat could have been held in a normal year, but the hundreds of millions of dollars just in those races, just last week, $11 million came in from Michael Bloomberg to spread over 4 candidates, almost 2 million of which I believe went to Mike Levin to beat up the highest ranking Republican in the state of California, Diane Harkey, with a splendid record. But Michael Bloomberg has certainly become an ardent Democrat trying to flip the House.
Indeed. All right. I want to move on. You were chairman of House Oversight, and you know what investigations entail. I believe you were chairman from 2011 to 2015. Yes. Now, there have been multiple reports that the Mueller-Russia investigation is winding down, and certainly without any indictments of any Americans connected to Russia collusion, no Russia collusion proven. And yet Adam Schiff from your land of California couldn't stop himself anytime he got in front of a camera to talk about Russia collusion. And I have a quote here. I mean, there are so many like this where he says there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy in plain sight. Now, if the Democrats win the House, he's going to be in charge of House Intel. Can we expect another 2 years of it's there, it's there, it's there? I mean, aren't we tired of this yet?
Oh, we absolutely can expect that. Adam Schiff, who's had access to all the classified information where there is no collusion by the Trump campaign with the Russians, has managed to say, well, it's in plain sight. Well, it's in plain sight in fake dossiers that were produced and paid for by the Obama administration. And so you can expect Adam Schiff, a former Democrat U.S. attorney, to be out there talking about things that he can't tell you the source, but he's going to swear exist. That's what he's been doing for the last 2 years of the Trump administration. Well, Congress and the Trump administration have been building a robust economy, getting rid of regulation.
I just have a few seconds left. You know, with the numbers in the economy just yesterday, the unemployment rate 3.7 and the jobs going up. I mean, what is your projection as it relates to the House? Does any of that stuff matter?
Well, you know, all of the good work done by the Republican House, that's going to come to a halt, and we're going to be frozen. The good news is the Trump administration's deregulations will continue. Many of the things that have caused us to have increases in export of oil, increases of export of durable goods, that's going to continue. But it is a challenge because so much of what was the agenda the last 2 years that the president signed is in danger of coming to a halt. And that's a real shame because the economy today has negative unemployment. More people more jobs being asked for than there are people to fill them.
All right, Congressman Darrell Issa, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Judge.
Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens are next. And do you want some last-minute insight before you go to the polls on? It's the race to the finish, and so much is at stake in these midterm elections. And here to talk about why they believe young people will make the right choice on Tuesday, Turning Point USA's Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. They both join me now. Guys, thanks for being with us. I know that you guys have been crisscrossing the country also, trying to get the vote out. Let's talk about the youth vote. All indications are that young people generally don't vote in the midterms. Is that the case? Charlie?
Well, you know, usually youth turnout in the midterms are around 40 to 45%, but all indications show that we're going to have some spiked enthusiasm. Candace Owens and I have been barnstorming the country, going to college campuses through our Turning Point USA campus tour. And I can tell you there are more young people than ever that are interested and supportive of this president's agenda. As Candace and I always say, there are some record highs in this administration, but there's also some record lows. Lowest ever black unemployment, lowest ever Hispanic unemployment, and the lowest youth unemployment in 60 years. So for our own generation's well-being, better pull that Republican lever come up on Tuesday.
All right. And Candace, what are you seeing as you go around the country as it relates to young people and their voting? Are they going to come out?
Look, they are going to come out because they are tremendously enthusiastic. And look, there almost seems to be a tacit understanding that the stakes are higher this time around. We are deciding between two very disparate viewpoints of what America should be. It's either going to be run by the left, who believes in mob rules, or, you know, feminism, radicalized feminism, just believe women, chasing down congressmen and chasing conservative out of restaurants, or we're going to vote for the founding principles and the Constitution and what our founding fathers laid out for this country. So they understand the stakes are higher this time around. I really think you're going to see a high voter turnout in terms of the youth.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask both of you. You know, the polls are indicating that, you know, first they said there was going to be a blue wave, and now they say they're very confident that the Democrats are going to win. I mean, do you feel that those polls are accurate? Charlie, I'll start with you.
No, and Candace and I, you know, we always are looking at this record turnout of early voting for Republicans in states like Arizona and states like Florida and states like Michigan. Then we look at these national polls, we just don't see the continuity there. And remember, back in 2016, the polls were so terribly wrong. And I believe that the polls are being used as suppression tools to try to keep the Republican base at home, to try to make it seem as if the Republican base we don't have a chance to win these elections. And so the message for every Republican voter out there right now and every Trump supporter, vote like it's a general election. Vote as if Donald Trump is on the ballot, because he is. If you give the power back to Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters, they're going to try to impeach this president and try to prevent his very successful
Candace,
agenda.
I want to go to Florida. You know, Florida is the 1% state. Governor Rick Scott won by 1%. Trump won by 1%. Obama won when he ran against Romney, 1%. So we've got two people, Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum. You guys, as you crisscross the country, I mean, what do you think about this Florida race in particular, Candace?
Look, I think if you're interested in making America Venezuela, then you're going to vote for Gillum. If you're interested in preserving what Florida has become and you want to see the economy go up, then you know what the decision is. You have to vote for Ron DeSantis. I mean, it's crazy what he's talking about, making it a socialist state. And this is what's at stake, what we're talking about here, the extreme left. I mean, it's scary talk, but I think that Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott are both going to pull through, and it's going to be a major win in Florida for us.
All right. And what about that, Charlie? I mean, we all know Ron DeSantis from his work in Congress and his work in identifying some of the wrongdoing and some of the corruption at the upper echelons of the FBI and the DOJ. Why isn't that translating, or is it translating in Florida for him to become governor?
Well, remember, every single poll that Florida had, the major polls, were wrong going into 2016. The experts had Donald Trump down 3 to 6 points heading into Election Day. And look, Candace and I have made multiple stops in Florida in many different parts of the state. And there is a general consensus of support of Donald Trump. And I think they're going to come out and support Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott. Florida is a very diverse state. You have the Panhandle, where the president just was, where it's more socially conservative. And then, of course, you have the I-4 corridor, which is your kind of more stereotypical suburban voter. And then, of course, southern Florida with a lot of migrants from the Northeast. Not migrants, but people that have moved, of course, from the Northeast going to Florida. And so this is going to be a very tight race. It's going to be focused on turnout. And I think Ron DeSantis is going to win when it comes down to the wire.
And Candace, let's talk about Gillum. I mean, you mentioned before the idea of turning Florida into Venezuela. You know, Florida, as Charlie just indicated, there's a lot of people, you know, who are there retiring, and there are a lot of senior communities. I mean, people don't like the idea of the concept of socialism and taking care of everybody. You know, to them, they've worked their whole lives, and now they want to retire and not have to pay for everyone else, whereas this guy Gillum is actually coming out and saying, you know, the police are the enemy. The police are plantation owners putting African Americans in cages.
That's correct. He's an extreme leftist. And listen, he's getting desperate. That's why he's pulling the race card suddenly, and he's accusing his opponent of racism, because he's failing ideologically to connect with the voters in Florida. So he's trying to scare them. He's trying to make them emotional, trying to use fear-based tactics, which is why in the end, I don't think it's going to work. On the ballot, you have Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis, and those are going to be the two people that pull away in this race. And I have no doubt about that. I'm feeling tremendously optimistic about Florida.
Well, all right. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right. And do you want to hear a special announcement? I got one coming up next. October 22nd. Now, it's an on-demand service with daily live opinion shows and documentaries that you're going to love, featuring exclusive content from your favorite Fox News hosts, including yours truly. For a limited time only, we're offering you a chance to become part of Fox Nation by signing up as a founder. By becoming founding member, you get exclusive merchandise that's only available between now and November 27th. So sign up at foxnation.com. And if you buy my book for Thanksgiving, I'll be very thankful. Thanks for watching. I'm Jeanine Pirro, advocating for truth, justice, and the American way. Greg Gutfeld's show is next, and I'll see you next Saturday night. And don't forget to get out there and vote. Bring everyone with you, your friends, your family.